when they put it up, he puts them up on all of them.
There we go.
Yep. What's good, world? It's your boy Big Jax. We are here doing our thing inside the locker room show. I got my main man, 10-year NFL vet, former Kansas City Chief, Steve Martin in the house. Steve, what's good,
Peace. What's
bro?
going on? What's good, baby? It's a hell of a
Man,
week.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Further and further into football season. We only got 4 games left, man. Can you believe that?
It's already here, baby.
Yep. Sid. Uncle Sid's in the house tonight from the great north up there. What's going on?
Trying to stay warm, Big Jacks. It's 6 above outside, so it's definitely winter now, man. So that's why
Oh,
I'm wearing my Green Bay hat, the frozen tundra, because that's what it's
Yeah,
like here in Maine.
yeah,
we
yeah,
forgive you for that.
yeah. You're in the frozen tundra for real. Six
Yep.
degrees, man. Good Lord. Oh no, I hate it. I hate it. So let's go. It got to come though. Winter has to happen.
Yep.
As every season does, this too shall pass. So I tell you what, we got lots going on tonight in the locker room show. We want to talk about a lot of stuff going on in the world of sports. Of course, we're going to talk about these Kansas City Chiefs. We also going to talk about the rest of the NFL. Then we're going to got to get in some college football playoffs. I mean, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I can't wait for the college football playoffs. I love the way the brackets allowed to get some of these smaller teams in, man, and let them get their shot. I love it. So we're going to talk about that. Of course, we're going to talk about some big things happening in the NIL, including an entire team going into the portal. So that's big right there. And then, of course, along with that, college sports, you got Bill Belichick going to coach in North Carolina. I cannot wrap my mind around the idea that this dude's doing that. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Juan Soto getting the biggest contract in all of sports, which is crazy. I think it's a terrible deal for the Mets, but we'll see what happens. So, of course, like I said, we got to kick it off. You know us, man. We are down here kicking it in KC. So we got to talk about these Chiefs for a minute. They get another win, 12-1, baby. After the doink that was heard around the world from your third string kicker. Nobody can seem to point that part out. This is your third string kicker that made that field goal. But everybody's talking about how lucky they are, but they just keep winning, Big Steve. We keep saying it every week. That's all that really matters.
That's football. And that's the thing with this whole with what it comes down to. The bottom line is people don't understand because Vegas is selling the superhero. They're selling Josh Allen. They're selling Lamar Jackson. They're selling Pat Mahomes. They're saying that these guys are superheroes and you got to believe in your superhero. The superhero is the team. That's the beautiful part about football is you do not win these games by yourself. No one ever has. And trust me, I played against Dan Marino, and I promise you it felt like he was winning games by himself. But guess what? He had to have a line that blocked for him. He had that defense that could get the other offense off the field, and he had to have special teams. That is real. When the superstar does superstar stuff, it's only a fraction of the game, about 3% of the game. And when they do it, you appreciate it because they can do it when they need it. And that's what the Chiefs do better than anybody else. They've literally, in my opinion, have focused on winning those last 4 minutes of the game because that's the game. Every one of these games, like it or not, the Panthers have played everybody, well, a lot of teams close. Yes, they have been blown. They got their breaks beat off them quite a few times, but they've played a lot of teams close. Look at Chicago. They got a bunch of nail biters. If you took Chicago's schedule, give them the win in the last 2 plays, they're sitting 10-2 because they would have won a lot more games. And that's the reality of football. And the thing, my thing is that I'm a football purist in that I know what it takes to get there, to stay. And staying there, I got kind of good at it, but I wasn't as good as those other guys. The reality is players win games. Coaches got to feel the players. And if there's no chemistry there, that's the one thing you can't buy. No matter how much you pay, no matter how much you shovel on some one person or 3 people, it doesn't matter. If they don't play well together, they're not going to win. So the Chiefs are the masters in my book. They've mastered to win to this point because right now, this is the December I talked about. Now you got to run the table. You got to find a way to go 4-0, 3-1, 2-2 at the worst in order to get through December because that's your momentum going into January, going into the playoffs. So congratulations to the Chiefs. My hat's off to my boys. I'm glad they're playing so good. Just stay healthy, and we should win. We could win out.
Yeah, and like you said, they got to at least go 3-1 so they can cement this number one seed. That was a great thing that Buffalo lost to the Rams over the weekend. That was huge. They got to play Detroit coming up this week.
Yep.
Like there's some battles. Pittsburgh. They got the Texans coming up. Like there's some battles. There's some football left to be played. But if the Chiefs can just stay on their game, I don't care. 1 point, 1 possession, whatever. Get it done. Get the win. Sid, what do you think about our Chiefs and how everybody says they're lucky? Do you think it's luck?
Well, you know what? Good teams make their own luck, right? And that's, a win is a win is a win. Some people may, like Steve keeps talking about the stars and all that, and how Mahomes is having. Yeah, he's good. He's having a great year still. But you're used to seeing him doing miraculous things, and they're just winning by different ways. And to me, I mean, that's what champion teams are built on. Around, I'm looking on the opposite in the NFC. You look at the Lions. The Lions got a big game this weekend against the Bills.
Yeah.
But the Lions, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with too. So I'm looking possibly for that matchup. In the end, I'd love to see that matchup, guys. I don't know about you, but I'd love to see that in the big game.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was going to say that the Lions are a mix of old school and new school football. They're downhill football. They're going to hit you in the mouth, but they got dynamic plays. Their offensive coordinator is going next year. He's a head coach because that guy calls a hell of a game. Some of the things they do with the play action, the boots, it is phenomenal, and it catches defenses. I'm not going to say they're sleeping because they played great defenses. It just catches defenses off guard because you defend one thing, but that just leaves you open for another. And the guy wasn't like he's an OC, but he was a computer scientist or something like that. He's running some unbelievable stuff, but he's got a knack and a feel for how to move that ball, and he knows how to. When defense takes away one thing, he knows how to go somewhere else. So they're doing great, and their defense is holding up, even though they got all the injuries they got. Question is how deep can they go in the playoffs? That's the only question, I think.
Well, I tell you, Steve, my pack, obviously we're in the big G here. That game against the Lions, that one's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So, they Campbell going for it on fourth down. That guy's he's a talk about the Wild Wild West. That guy likes to
He's
take
a
his
gunslinger.
chances, and it works for him. I mean, that guy, love him or hate him, he does take his chances, and that's what I like about him as a coach.
Well, sorry about the fact that they're not going to beat the Lions.
Yeah. That Campbell, everybody was kind of talking. That was a very big talking point these last couple of days about him going for it the way he did. But the reality is he knows that he does have 14 guys hurt on defense. So if the best side of the ball that I have as a unit right now is my offense, put my offense back out there, let them go for it, man. Because if you can keep scoring, that's what'll eventually win you the game when you're trying to cover up for all those injuries on defense. And their OC may be calling some incredible game. But, man, they got an incredible amount of talent, man. 2 running backs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Williams, Laporta, like one of the best offensive lines in the game. Like that offensive unit is a beast, absolutely. So I believe that could very well be the matchup come Super Bowl time. And we'll see what happens. Of course, we're hoping for the three-peat, but they're going to be a formidable foe. Again, those injuries on defense might jump up and bite them against the Chiefs. And if the Chiefs defense can just hang in there, because they've had some problems, and I don't think as many problems as people want to act like. They still only gave up 17 points this week. So, you got to, if you can keep teams in that 17 to 20 range, 24, less than 24, you got a great chance of winning with this team. So we'll see what happens with that.
But also remember that they're playing everybody's best. Everybody's coming to
Absolutely.
the Chiefs trying to knock the king off the crown, so they're playing a Super Bowl every single week.
Yes, sir.
That's not easy to do. Just
That's right.
point that out.
Yes, and to do that and be 12-1, like I keep telling people, man, this team last year would have been losing these games. Remember, they lost 4 out of 6 down the stretch last year. So the fact that they're still able to win these games when they're, just got your number one running back got back, you lost your number one wide receiver this year, like you lost your set number 2 wide receiver this year, like you've patched this thing together. You're on your third left tackle. You're on your third kicker. To even be able to still be in these games is just a testament to this organization. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And of course, we'll be rooting for these Chiefs. Let's get it done. So, of course, we want to talk about a little bit more about the rest of the NFL. Like you mentioned, there are some huge matchups this week. I'm interested to see what Pittsburgh's going to do, man, because that's another team that seems to be kind of coming together. Russ is cooking up there. So I really want to see what they're able to do. That's going to be another big matchup for them this week.
Hey guys, how about him? Denver. There's nothing happening for him there, and he goes to Pittsburgh and proves everybody wrong. I mean, kudos to him. I mean, I'm happy for that guy for sure.
Yeah, and I agree with many of the people commentating that Mike Tomlin he made a masterful move. I mean, people are second guessing him, judging him and stuff. It's like, no, he's never had a losing season since he's been a head coach. I mean, and for him to put together another winning season and he's legit contender. He only got to stay healthy. If they stay healthy, especially on defense, they're going to find a way to win because they got an explosive running game. I shouldn't say explosive. They got a meticulous running game. They will beat you down. And they're coming, in my opinion, out of the hardest division, and that's the AFC North. Those you going to beat Baltimore again.
Yeah, they got Eagles this weekend, Ravens, and the Chiefs. So they got a tough schedule, man.
Yeah, they got to fight, and there has been no game, even the games they've lost, they've been contenders the whole time. So they're a great team, man, but I think it's probably just their tradition of them knowing how to get to the playoffs and go deep in the playoffs. So I don't like the Pits. I want them beat up. I want the Steelers beat up before they get to us. That's
Steve, one of our buddies over here, old Book, he's probably chomping at the bit till he plays you guys. So we're looking forward to that. So Book can maybe bragging rights last game of the year, buddy.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
Well, yeah, I tell you what, there's, like I said, some great matchups this week. The NFL, there's just nothing like it, man. I'm telling you, it's such the epitome of what football is for us, and I'm looking forward to that. But I'm also looking forward as we move on towards that college football playoff. I mean, as somebody that played for a lot of football in my life, it was unfortunate that I wasn't as interested in college football as I should have been because I hated the playoff system, the BCS. That was just terrible, absolutely ridiculous. So at least now with this 12-game playoff, you can see teams get to play it out on the field and have their chance, take their shot. And I just love the teams that are going to get the chance to do that. Teams like Boise State, teams like SMU, teams like Indiana. Let's talk about this college football playoffs bracket and the playoff system. What do you guys think? Like you said, I think I heard we were saying earlier, like a team like Alabama that didn't make it, that possibly could have over somebody like SMU if they had a chance. Is that better or worse? Is that good or bad for this overall college playoff system?
Steve, you want to take that first?
Yeah, I would say we're gonna fuck around and find out. That's what's gonna happen because I felt bad for Boise State years ago when they clearly went undefeated and they were snubbed for playing for the national championship. I thought they should at least deserve a chance. And for every other school that's out there that has a competitive team, they at least deserve a chance. And SMU has earned it this year. Boise State has earned it this year. So now that you've earned it, now you got to step into the pool with the big kids. And
Yeah.
now you got to prove that you can do this. And to me, it's on SMU. It's on Boise State. Now, you talked all that shit for years. Now you got to prove it. No
Yeah.
more second guessing. No more, oh, we could have, would have, should have. You got the chance. It's in your hands. What are you going to do? Go do it. And that's why you love a playoff system, because you got to get there first. And everybody had a chance. All 111 teams had a chance to get there. Now, what are you going to do? Because now you ain't got to talk no more. You ain't got to say, oh, we could have, would have, should have. Hey,
Right.
you're going to say, and do I think that a couple of them going to get smoked? Probably.
Probably.
They probably get smoked. I hope they don't. I hope they really, because if they win, then that justifies the system of coming up with a system that gets everybody to participate. And now you can't sit there and say, oh, just because they're so-and-so, they only played these schools. And no. If they're a legitimate contender, they're going to prove their worth. And that's what makes this so exciting now. And I'm excited for the kids of college football.
I have to agree with you on that, Steve. I mean, it's great to see that they're doing this, but I think it's only the beginning. I think they're going to have to expand upon this to truly make it really more beneficial. I'm not saying go to the point of where we're talking March Madness like basketball, but eventually I think maybe 16. But we'll see how it goes this year. But looking at the bracket, I was trying to pull it up. I was trying to pull it up to share. But if we look at the brackets the way it's laid out right now, there's a couple coaches, in my opinion, Steve and Jax, that I think are going to be on the hot seat. One in particular is going to be Penn State, because Penn State opens up against SMU, and they have Boise State. Boise State gets the bye, which I may not agree with, but they get the bye. So Penn State, just by looking at it on paper, they should be in that semifinal game. They should win those first two games. If they don't, I think Franklin's going to have the hot seat. Now, on the other side, we got Ohio State taking on Tennessee, 6-7. Don't you think that Ryan Day, I mean, the same thing holds true there. If he doesn't get by Tennessee, that man, I think, is going to be in the hot seat as well. I mean, you guys can have your opinions on it or not, but I like what we're doing, but I don't like that. I think they should reseed after round one. I think maybe that's something else, because I don't know, just mix it up a little bit. But I think in the long run, looking at the bracket, I think Oregon got the shaft out of the seeding, how they got it set up. This is my personal opinion.
And I don't disagree with that in the regards. I will say this, though, for Georgia to play Tennessee, that's kind of a in school that they already play those guys. So to me, that's not I don't necessarily think his head should be on the chopping block just yet. I will agree with you 100% on Penn State, though, because again, Penn State's supposed to be one of the seasoned. They're the Big Ten. You shouldn't lose to SMU. And in my opinion, if SMU just keeps it close, if they're within one play or one series, I mean, I can't disagree that his head shouldn't be on the chopping block, because he's supposed to beat those guys. But, again, we'll see. Like I say, that's the best part about when you change up the way you compete. When you make people earn it, you find out what they really got.
Absolutely.
Who's your sleeper, Sid?
If you look at a sleeper, I mean, we talk about, like he's mentioned Boise State. I mean, they got the first round bye. They can win that second game. They're in the semis. So they're the sleeper right there, in my opinion. They're the third seed. Arizona State, let's give them some respect. I love what their coach has done there. They got a first round bye, and they'll face the winner of Texas versus Clemson. Clemson, I thought for sure the way they started, oh boy, I didn't think they're going to make it either. But that's an intriguing first round. Number 5 versus 12, Texas Longhorns versus Clemson. So on paper, Texas should win. And then when you go down, let's go down to even more. You look at Indiana and Notre Dame. Actually, you look at the strength of schedule. Indiana had a better strength of schedule than Notre Dame when you look at who they played and who they lost to. Notre Dame lost NIU, right? Northern Illinois.
Yes.
Indiana lost to Ohio State, a Big Ten team. So go, you do the math on that. You figure, but I'm not the one that does the seeding, but that would be a sleeper in my. If Indiana, I mean, that coach, if he can win that game, watch out for them. They might be the true sleeper right there.
That'll be a big game, because that's a true Indiana game, and I don't think they've ever played each other since like 1940 something.
Who knows? Yeah, that's right. I forget Purdue, and I mean that Indiana's in Indiana, and so is Notre Dame in Indiana, right? So
yeah,
wow. But
that's going to be a hell of a game.
I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I want to back up to SMU guys. if SMU wins and wins the second, if they let's say they scoot through, just think of what that's going to do for their NIL fund and what they're going to do for that. We're going back to the '80s, guys. We're going back to Craig James and the running back days where they're and this is legal now. They got some big money down there. I think even
got that all.
Aren't the Hunts former SMU grads?
They got that all. They got that all money. That's that all money.
Clark just talked about in a press conference this week the fact that he was at the game over the weekend.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
He's a big time
very interesting
supporter.
Yeah, it'd be very, very interesting. They're back on the map, and they're doing now what they were doing illegally back in the '80s. And now it's legal. Now it's legal.
Now it's legal. Well,
no, I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I'm just looking forward to it. I'm looking for some an upset to come into play. I want to see an upset come into play here. So
that would be a beautiful upset, by the way, to watch it. And their egos would jump out the roof, and they would believe they could win it all if they beat Penn State. They will really think they can win it all, and that's another thing that happens with young. You've been seeing it, and to me, what I've been seeing with all these big games and the pressure on them, you see the great teams. They've been buckling. They buckled. Alabama buckled. Georgia buckled. Texas buckled. They all buckled because they're kids. They don't know how to handle that kind of pressure, And when you go in the NFL, you got a guy like you got the old veterans that kind of shepherd you along, like hang in there, kid. You're going to be okay. You ain't got that in college. You got a senior that this is his first time going through this shit too. Right. So he buckles. And then how's he going to keep the four freshmen up that's out there playing? He can't, So that's what's so exciting about college football right now, because these games are going to be big pressure they've never felt before. So it's going to be.
Which reminds me, I was going to say too. I wonder what tickets are going for in that Indiana Notre Dame game. I think I heard the numbers are astronomical.
I'm bad.
Love to be a scalper. Just saying.
Wish I already had a set of those bad boys. So I tell you, like you guys said, though, with the way that the portal and everything else, I think it's going to eventually, and it kind of does now. I think a team like a Georgia, to me, is going to have the ability to sustain all of that movement, because they just are going to be able to get so much talent. And, that's going to be the real key is for those schools, a school like an SMU, they're probably going to kind of see some fluctuations of things, because that's what I noticed in college basketball. Like, any team can be good now. Like, if you get a couple of veterans and you go in the portal and pull a couple kids out in basketball, like, you can be San Diego State, and all of a sudden you're right there. I think something similar will happen with football over time. And we definitely are headed that way to talking about the portal and NIL. The big story this week was the entire team at Marshall, I believe, is going into the portal. Like, what? that is huge.
Wild West, 100%. And it's the demand for getting stability to the force, because you got a whole club. I mean, it takes a long time to build culture. You got the people that are, run the school that are there, that have been there forever, but it's mainly the players that assimilate from other players. You're not going to have anybody to transfer that assimilation onto anybody else. And you're going to have a new coach who's bringing in whatever his idea of culture. So they're going into an empty shell of culture. So he's got to, whoever's coming in has got to build their team out of the portal, and none of them come from that school or from the region. They might be from the region, and that might be the only way that they can help build some kind of culture, is to grab some kids that, grew up around Marshall, went to Marshall games and, was a fan of Marshall over their career. But you're probably going to get most of those kids from Division II, Division III, because those are all the kids that Marshall snubbed in the area. So that's going to be the ones you get. And are they talented enough to go and compete in the conference that you're in? So this is something that every school is going to have to really look at and evaluate. And at some point, they're just going to have to accept the fact that they're a business, start running it like a business, and quit treating these kids as student athletes. Just stop doing it. It's not working. It's not going to work. And Marshall's going to be we already saw what happened with FSU last year. Just going to the play, they go to a bowl game and get slaughtered because everybody jumped ship. And then you come into this year and they don't have the infrastructure, and they still had guys that were from the previous year. Marshall ain't gonna have nobody. So
hey, they just got a kicker from Rochester Mayor here in Minnesota. A kicker and punter. He's going down to FSU. One of the top kickers. They need running backs and quarterbacks and wide receivers, though. Not a kicker.
And linemen. So
and linemen. And linemen.
Yeah,
which is really the hardest part of any college team to build is linemen, because it takes time. Those guys got to get in the weight room for a couple of years and then learn all these new techniques.
Well, the portal's going to help you there, because you're going to be able to grab some. You can probably grab some guys from who's nearby, West Virginia. You could probably grab the guys that aren't playing, that are seniors going in, and they're not the starter. That's who's going to jump on your board. Yeah, I'll come to Marshall so I can start. But culture, there's culture developed in the weight room in the off season. There's culture developed going to class. There's culture developed from meetings and things of that nature. You're going to have 110 guys who are all mercenaries. All mercenaries. That's going to be.
Steve, how are they going to handle? Don't they have a bowl game that they're supposed to play in? I think they made a bowl game, didn't they, Marshall?
I don't know.
I was curious. Are those guys, hey, let's say, screw it, we're not playing? I mean, we want to make sure we save them. So what do you do in that case? That's what I was curious, is that I have to look it up. I'm sure they got a bowl game they're playing.
Man, I didn't even think about that. That's got to be horrible.
Well, that's part of what we talked about, and we were going to talk about a little bit tonight, the idea that as part of your NIL deals, you're going to have to negotiate with these guys in order to make sure they play in the bowl game. And you're going to have to probably have some additional dollars in incentive in order to make sure that happens.
That is the simple part. It really is simple, because the NFL does it. You got your contract is paid over the 17-week season. Every playoff is bonus money. So the first round is, going back, I'm dating myself, but your first round was like $45,000. Second round was $75,000. Third championship was $110,000, and then the Super Bowl's $200,000. That's all you got to do. Yeah. It's really not that hard to make the players play. They just got to pay them. And this is what they don't want to do, is pay these guys this money. But the school has to let go of their program, because otherwise they're going to pay these guys, and they got to be employees of the university, which means they get tenure and they get all the other benefits that all employees get as long as they're part of the university. If you segment it off and it becomes its own entity, then you can pay the guys and you don't have a problem doing it. And guys won't have a problem playing in the bowl game. If I'm making another $200,000-$300,000 in postseason pay, you got me. It's real simple.
Well, and I'll have to look for it next week to be sure. But isn't there something with the date that the portal opens up, or that you have to be declared into the portal, that also interferes with the end of the season? Like,
the portal's open right now.
Interferes with these bowl games as well.
The portal's open right now, and if a guy jumps in the portal, he probably ain't available to play.
Okay. So, just so you're aware, guys, they are in a bowl game. It's the Reliant. What the heck was it? Some weird name. Reliance Technology something. They're playing Army in the Reliance Technologies Independence Bowl. And, they have one of the best they have the best record for bowl teams winning percentage in the past 15 seasons. Just so you're aware.
They're not playing that bowl game, and they're going to have to scratch them and get somebody else to go to the bowl game, because if everybody jumped in the portal, they're gone.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the story is in that, but there's been a lot of news talking about them. I know that. I'm just surfing around and very interesting.
You know what? And I'm looking at it in regards of, you guys got to treat players right and stop piggybacking and just raping them for their service. They're servicing the university, and you're saying rah rah sis boom bah the whole time. The university's making tens of millions of dollars and not paying these guys anything. And when it's revealed on how much they really earn, people are going to be really pissed when they find out, oh my God, these schools were making 60, 80 million bucks a season and didn't gave the player a per diem package, and that's all the player got. It's like, this is just criminal. But yeah, if the money's being made, share the wealth, especially with the people that are earning it. They're going out and performing, they're sacrificing their body, their futures, because they want to do this and they want the next level. But this is the great thing about what the NIL can do, is it can set a kid off for life, and he doesn't have to play pro. If he can make a lot of money by the time you're 22, 24 years old, are you fucking kidding me? You could start your life if you got 2-3 million in your bank account ready to roll and get your degree at the same time. I mean, why not? You're asking them to sacrifice all this stuff. I mean, the money's being made. Why not? Why forsake him? He earned it. That's a bigger point. But yeah.
Sid, I know we were talking earlier, and you mentioned the #1 basketball recruit just signed to BYU.
Yeah, and it's funny you said that, because you said, hey, anybody can, basketball. Because when I think of basketball, I think of North Carolina, I think of Duke, and now actually Alabama's in the thick of things too. They're pretty good lately. Yes, SMU, which is not a basketball school, not known for basketball.
I thought you said BYU.
Yeah, BYU. Excuse me, BYU. BYU is not all these letters. I get goofed up sometimes. Right. But BYU signed he got $7 million. Allegedly $7 million is what he signed for in NIL dollars. And he's the #1 recruit. I can't pronounce his name. Depansa. He's playing at some academy out in Utah. So they, stayed close to home. But $7 million. And that's only, the quarterback that went from LSU to Michigan, he got 10, right?
Right.
So it's pretty comparable, man. For a big man. It's like a quarterback in football, right? They got the big man underneath the net. That's not bad money.
Not bad money at all. And, when you start considering the whole situation in terms of the NIL and the portal, then it really is interesting to me to see Bill Belichick entering that world when, these other old coaches all quit. Like, everybody else quit. And now here he is, 72 years old, been in the NFL all this time, and you want to step into this college situation? There's no way, man. I don't understand.
Well,
I just don't get it.
I'm sure Mr. Martin over there is chomping at the bit to say a few things about him. But before we do, Steve, I just got to mention the thing about, Belichick, love him or hate him. I mean, the guy, he won championships, but can he bring it to the collegiate level? I mean, it's different. But we're talking about in essence, we're talking about professional athletes now, because they're getting paid like professional athletes, these players. So it's not, the game has become more a professional game. So, Steve, what say you from your experience with him? I know you got a little bird in your saddle from him.
Well,
but all in general, more than the average Joe would know about Mr. Belichick.
First, I want to jump back to the basketball kid, and if you remember a couple years ago, Sid, I said this was jokingly, but I said the NIL is going to open up the door for some school out of nowhere to come up and be somebody. And I was joking if North Dakota, South Dakota, or something like that, and winds up being BYU. So, like you said, they're not a basketball school, but they are about to be.
I know. They will be now. And if I may interject, reading on that, it says, well, I really like the coach. He coached one of my favorite players, Kevin Durant, when he coached before. And then I want to go to the NBA. But you know what, man? Let's be honest. $7 million had a little bit to do with that. Come on, don't lie.
$7 million at 18 years old.
What? Money?
Mm-hmm. But so to get onward, and speaking of how the NIL is changing everything, and full disclosure, I played for Belichick in 2002, the year right after they went to the Super Bowl. I was in New York in 2001 when they went, and then I went to New England in 2002. I don't like Bill. I think he's an asshole. That's my opinion. But I went there because I respected what he did when he sat Bledsoe down and started Brady, because that would have been a career killer for him had it not panned out, because he'd have been done as a head coach if Brady didn't pan out. And we were actually in the game that put Bledsoe out and got Brady the starting game, but that's another story in of itself. But I would say that the things I will give props to Bill is he's a hell of he can build a club. He built that Patriots team to be who they were. He didn't win the games, not to me. I thought it was the staff and the players that really won the game. They had great. Randall Cornell was coordinator. They had great offensive staff. They connected with the players well. And bottom line, Brady did it. Brady did it all because Brady was the glue that held that team together. He was a superstar when he needed to be. And like he said, he's an ultimate game manager. He did it better than anybody. And was interchangeable parts they were able to run. So it's ironic that he goes to college. But as I tell people, he can't go pro because at the end of the day, he's a dick. And that's just who he is. And it's okay, you're a dick, but the thing with him, you're either shit or sugar. There's no sweet shit with him. So he either likes you as a player and respects you and treats you with, utmost dignity and honor, or he hates you, which he hated me. He didn't want me in New England. He wanted me out of New York. And I thought that was real shit. You could have just said, just go somewhere else. Just leave New York or something. I mean, don't bring me to New England just to sit me on my ass because I'm here in my prime ready to play. But I don't know how that's going to work in college, not to mention the high turnover. He was able to hold on to veterans for forever. I mean, he kept Anthony Pleasant in the league for 16 years. You ain't gonna do that in college unless they come up with a collective bargaining. And he was a master of putting together veteran players with mid-tier guys, with young rookies. I thought that was the one thing that I admired his roster construction because he was able to build a roster like nobody else. So it's going to be real interesting to see how he handles the dynamic of 4-year turnover with everybody. You're not going to keep a quarterback 3 or 4 years. They got to come out of high school developed, ready to play college football.
Well, speaking of high school, maybe that's why he's dating a 24-year-old. She's only 6 years out of high school. Maybe she can help him relate to some of these young players, huh?
Oh, that's a low blow I wouldn't even take.
Hey, Miss Belichick.
More power to him.
Hey, yeah, shit, you're old ass man with a lot of money. Hell yeah, you're gonna get a girl's attention.
Absolutely.
She just wants to get life insurance.
Hey guys, at least I jokingly say, okay, whenever I used to do lifts and that, I'd pick up these young college girls. So don't worry about it, ladies. I don't hit on any girl younger than my daughter, and she's 31. So you're okay. Belichick, everything's
out the window. I don't give a damn. You're the age of my granddaughter. We can still hook it up.
That's still good. You're an adult. You're That's what you are.
We digress, but I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry, but Ken plays into the college stuff.
Well, I tell you what, that it just doesn't. I just don't believe that he's such a hole that one of these NFL owners would not have given him a job, and especially for a guy with an ego like that who was chasing the all-time record for wins, and he's the only other thing that I have heard or have seen some rumors about is that he's going to be bringing his son in. And that his son will kind of be the heir apparent. He'll be the coach in waiting, and he's basically kind of setting this up for his son. So that would be the only thing that would make sense to me.
That sounds like him. His nepotism is terrible. Tell me how many coaches come out of his tree? How many coaches developed and become great head coaches or even good coordinators? They don't. He doesn't build anybody. He just sucks the life out of you. And that's why he's an asshole. Because you're gonna. I'm a player. I don't give a shit where I'm at as long as I'm in the league. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, but if you got power as a player, you don't go to somebody like him. I mean, I didn't know any better, and the GM for the Jets told me. He said, "You don't want to go there." And I'm like, well, you don't want me to go there because you're for the Jets. He's like, yeah, but it ain't what you think it is. Yep. And I wish I'd have listened because I could have went to.
Let me interrupt on this then, just because if I don't, I forget, right? Too many pucks I stop with my melon, and I actually stop a puck or two. So speaking of that, then you talk about egos and some of these guys, like the kid that got $10 million to go to Michigan as a quarterback. You got some of these, kids that really have some egos still at this young age. The NIL money that they're going to have at NC. Maybe he puts that more into the guys like they didn't have, other than Brady, when we talk about Brady, they didn't have any superstar when he coached, right? Other than Brady. Well, he had a few,
I
but I
will
mean,
say
not.
we had a superstar secondary, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Was the secondary and the defense was a superstar defense, so
Okay.
he had that. But on offense, he was the main star. What do we have? A big running back from Buffalo. What's his name? My
Corey
dude.
Dillon.
No, before I'll think of his name. But we did have Corey Dillon wasn't there when I was there.
I got you.
But he had good backs. Falk's cousin, not Marshall.
Yeah, I
Marshall.
know the other Falk. Yeah, but
Kevin Falk. Kevin Falk.
Kevin.
But Kevin was a multi-purpose guy. And I thought the receivers were good. We just, we didn't have until he got Randy Moss. Everybody else was just a really good receiver. Deion Branch was a good receiver. They're good receivers, but the line, in my opinion, is where it hurt because he didn't have a good offensive line. But they were efficient. They got it done. And he learned how to play with those guys. He could have did it better with a better offensive line. But like I said, he built a roster. So the egos, and when you're dealing with these egos, I don't know what it's like to deal with a $54 million player. I mean, that's another animal because you really can't tell him shit if you wanted to because he's going to tell you go suck ass and you're going to have to go find one to suck. That's just
So you get my point where I'm going with that though.
Yeah.
What kind of core is he going to get? I mean, is he going to get the table scraps or is he going to get a guy that's a $5 million a year player? I mean, I'm
going to have to.
getting that. And
in order to compete, he's going to have to get a $10 million quarterback. That's just what you're going to have to do. Because you're going to want to compete, and the only way you're going to compete is to be able to get that guy off of from where he's coming from.
There's a few of them in there. I know Washington State's quarterback. He was a hell of a quarterback. He's in the portal. I mean, he went out, and I know guy from USC. There's a lot of quarterbacks out there. They may not be $10 million. They may be that $3.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to pay it. That's a given. The hard part's going to be other positions like corner or receiver or defensive end. Or a good linebacker, you're going to have to pay those guys, and then what is their ego going to be? Because you got to understand, everybody else is down there, turning sand and grinding rocks, and you get a good rock grinder. I mean, he might talk shit to you, and Belichick don't do well with that. He does not. He's going to be God, number one. He's going to want to be GM, head coach, OC, DC, he's going to want to control the whole thing. That's 100%. And if he's setting it up for his son, then that's really what his real intention is to make sure his son, develops a name for himself or inherits a good club. So ego is going to be, you can't fuck with his ego. Because I was joking a couple weeks ago when I was saying, have him go to Dallas with Deion. And that's an ego train wreck. Because Jerry ain't giving up shit to nobody, and but he's the one that could use him more than anybody else, and he wasn't on the thing.
You talk about ego, good Lord, man.
Yeah. So him, because they're college and because they're gonna be happy that they got that stuff. I mean, I think he'll be able to manage them and influence them a little bit more. But he's just, I mean, I never got to know the guy that well. I just respected what he did as a coach, and I watched him make that. When he sat Bledsoe down, I knew that was a coach death sentence. If you're wrong, you're out and you're ruined. When I saw that, I said, I'll take a chance on that guy. And I should have.
I don't get it because that same $10 million quarterback, guess what happens next year when you get towards the end of the season? And he's a sophomore, and he's played well, you got to recruit him again because there's somebody else out there that's telling him to jump in the portal, and they'll give him $15 million next time. Like, I have no idea why anybody, as an old coach, would want to get into that situation. He's
doing it for his son. And he just said it. And It's
Sit
not
down
fun.
and go call the games with Manning.
Manning brothers.
Jeez,
Yeah,
man, come on.
but he's doing it for his son. That's clearly to me that sounds like the main move. He's not doing it for his career. He's doing it so his son gets on the table, becomes recognized as a good coach and shit like that. That's clearly what it is to me. He loves teaching.
Yeah. That's a legacy thing. I think you're right on that. I think you might need to hit the nail on the head without, speaking to him personally. That makes a lot of sense, Steve. So, but if I don't, I'll forget. He's got a lot to work with right now in the portal. Guess how many players are in the portal for college football as of December 11th today?
How many?
765 players today in the
How
portal.
many Division One?
I don't know how many are Division One total. They just said a total of 765 or 750 FBS scholarship players. Players. So
that's
there you go.
okay. So he's got a crop to choose
got
from.
a bunch to pick, and there's a lot of quarterbacks too. Like I said, there's the quarterback from USC, the quarterback from Washington State. They're a couple $1 million players. And on the portal, people have until the 28th as a player to jump in. So they have until the 28th this month. So it's today, the 11th. They got 17 days. So maybe these guys after their bowl game, maybe they jump in. We'll see. But that's a lot, and a lot of wide receivers too. There's 220 wide receivers this year. Where that's crazy. Of those 750.
And that's the thing is that guys are jumping in the portal because, and I don't know what consulting they're getting or who's telling them what's a good idea to do it and whatnot. But that's what we do at Simple Plays is to put it together so that we give you that consultation and let you know, hey, this is a good time for you to jump or this is not a good time for you to jump. And that's what we has to bring some balance to the force because these universities. Marshall's about to be the first one screaming because that's insane.
Well, and obviously money has completely changed this situation. I think the portal, when NIL is one thing, the portal is another thing, and when you put those two together, like you're talking about total control for the players, man. Like, I'm for the players. I love the fact that the players have this much leverage in college sports now. Eventually, I have a feeling they're going to find some kind of way to balance this thing out a little bit better because you can't keep guys at all. You don't have any way to really tie them to anybody or anything. They're going to have to find a way to kind of balance this out a little bit more so it can be because money, speaking of which, when you talk about money and you talk about pro sports and which college it is now, you got to talk about what happened this week with Juan Soto signing $765 million.
That's just outrageous.
For 15 years.
And the guy doesn't even save lives. I mean, doctors don't get paid. They save lives. This guy just hits home runs and makes some errors. That's crazy.
Right.
And it's all guaranteed. None of it's deferred. That's what's even crazier.
That's even crazier.
That's the power of Vegas. That's what it comes down to. Vegas is in this all the way. Vegas loves numbers. They love change. They love anything that they can sell. Because, again, you got to understand it's about betting lines. The more lines you have per game, per player, per whatever, you can bet on anything. And I'm not on any of the stuff. I just hear it from people that have it. DraftKings and MGM and all those. They got bets on stupid shit. Who's going to have the most hits by the fourth inning? What kind of shit is that? That's not winning. That's not losing. But if you can have a line on it, and so you just think about your parlays that you got, that's on every sport, every single day they play. You got win or lose. You got by how much. You got how many stats are generated, how many home runs, how many bases hit, how many touchdowns. It doesn't matter. They can make up a line for everything. And the more people bet, and what makes it so convenient for them, that when our guy Brian told us in week 4 of the NFL, they had already made $10 billion by week 4. So by now, it's well more than that. So if you're looking at the more statistic driven the sport is, the more betting there is. In baseball, people don't really watch baseball but for anything but to bet. because the numbers are what they are, and the players perform in so many different ways. And guy goes in a slump, and you make shit ton of money when big changes happen. So this guy, him getting $760 million is just, in my opinion, them trying to keep the betting on sport on baseball high, people paying attention to the wherever he goes high, which keeps more interest in the game. They're doing everything they can to get more eyes on all of these sports, so the betting goes up, so they make more money. And the thing with the NFL is the betting is not included in the collective bargaining. I will hope that baseball and basketball have incorporated the betting into their salaries. Because if you incorporate the betting into the salaries, that takes the average salary. The lowest guy on the totem pole would be making $1,500,000, $1,600,000.
Yeah, well, we know that's probably not the case where they're doing that because they don't want to talk about betting with athletes because you know what can happen there, right? But I mean, it just goes to show you this it's out of the world. You know, the guy that's one of the Mets, he went to the Mets, 10 million, only I say only, but only $10 million more than what the Yankees offered him. So he could have took a discount to stay at the Yankees. He didn't. He went for the money. But Steve Cohen is a hedge fund billionaire, so that to him is nothing, right? You know, it's no big deal. And good luck to the Mets. I mean, they were in the playoffs last year. They fell short. So did the Yankees. But money talks. That's why you don't see teams anymore like the Oakland A's. They're gone, right? They moved to Vegas. The Twins, they're basically a farm team for other teams. They don't pay the big bucks. They go on to elsewhere. So it is what it is. But those guys are making money off the league still and off of these contracts. They're still billion-dollar owners. They just want to pay it out. But
Well,
yeah,
I think just who won the World Series this year?
that was Los Angeles.
Okay, yeah, they did pay the big money
Yep,
because
with Ohtani.
yeah, they did pay the big money. I mean, the thing.
Yeah, but they're the ones who avoid actually accounting for the big money, which is crazy to me because again, being in Kansas City, the Royals don't have they pay John my guy their shortstop Billy Christmas.
Don't get me to say it because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't follow the guys on there. I'm sorry, Troy. Our buddy
He
Troy
was
probably
he
know.
was second in the MVP vote in the MVP voting this year. Man, come on. But they paid him $288 million, which is the most in franchise history. And so the idea of paying somebody $700 million like Ohtani or like this guy Juan Soto, that's not even in the possibility of there's no way they can do that. And then
Yeah, and
the
I was gonna say
Dodgers
that's Bob.
turn around
Bob
and make a mockery of the whole situation by deferring all that money until later on, so that they are able to pay even more players, so they can get a better team. But they defer all of Ohtani's money for all these years down the road, so they don't pay the piper right now. It's just without a salary
crazy.
cap and without a floor. There's nothing about that league that's going to balance out, and that's one of the biggest reasons why they don't get as much attention as they should, because it's just out of balance. It's too much in favor of the big market teams. It still is, even all these years later. We had a walkout in Kauffman Stadium back in the day to protest the imbalance in the small markets and big markets, and it really hasn't changed at all. Really, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that was, by the way, it was Bobby Witt Jr. I had a brain fart
Bobby
too. I
Witt,
apologize for
yes,
the
thank you.
300. He was paid 377 million, and that's a good amount of money.
That's huge.
And then Ohtani was paid almost 400 million more, and then no, Soto. That's crazy. So
that's
but
crazy.
College football has become that way. You know, we're being paid athletes, paid hired guns, and it's all real. You know, big money there. I mean, we talked about it. We talked about SMU with the money down there, the Hunts, the oil. You're going to see them flying high like it was back in the 80s again. They're going to, if they start winning the playoffs,
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on SMU to do this one, and it's not just pressure, but the change of college sports, I think, changes upon them winning. So, and that's for SMU, Boise State, and Indiana. They win, we're looking at a new NCAA, and it's going to change the floor of everything. But
Well,
again, that's where we come in, because we're basically saying we don't have a problem. We want players to get paid. We want them to get as much as they possibly can.
Yeah.
We also want them to learn how to manage it and to not let it overwhelm them, because more money, more problems. That's the reality of life. So you just need somebody there to kind of give you some guide rails to operate in and some basic structure. You're still going to do what you're going to do. It's your life. But if you know how to protect yourself, if you know how to set up your operation and your organization and run yourself like a business, because you are a business if you are an athlete, you have to learn how to run your family business. And it's monumental changes in it. And then with where this stuff is going, I mean, the gambling changes everything. And I'm not saying anything against it. I'm only saying, hey, include the player in it, because you guys are just so used to pimping, you don't know how to share. And it's like, you can make even more money. You know how many autograph signings I'd have went to if I got paid more? You know, they asked me to do the shit for free. It's like, whoa, doesn't everybody get paid now? And it's like, you don't do that no more.
You can't read their autograph, by the way, Steve. You can't read the damn thing.
You're not supposed to.
They're signing them so fast.
It's supposed to be a calligraphy piece of work. But, you know, I look at it in the sense of these athletes should walk out of college and not have to worry about the core of their existence. They'll always have something. They don't. Do they have to walk out and make $70-80 million? I mean, if they can, go ahead. But if the university's making $180 billion or $180 million a year, then I think the player deserves it. The NFL gives us 71% of the collective bargaining agreement. And it's going to be similar to college football, because, again, you don't have – you got the institution, but you don't have anything without those athletes or the coaches. But you're paying the coaches. So now pay the athlete. And I don't think it's too much to ask, especially with the amount the schools are making. And the Division II, Division III, they're doing a contribution to it because that's your farm system. So pay them too. And, you know, that would be the only place. Basically, the student athlete is only going to exist in high school. The Division II and Division III are going to be taken over by NIL too. It's inevitable.
You know, high school is, there's some hired guns there too.
Next up on the list.
It's about to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of these players. I mean, you don't think that kid that went to BYU playing at the academy was brought in by some money maker, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
It's already.
By the way, going back,
it's just a different system in the way they're doing it in high school. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, they got these academies, and they're
private school and academies. Those are the ones that are going to start dominating some of these sports, you know, especially football out there, because those are feeder systems to the colleges.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, going back, Steve, you mentioned these coaches are being paid. I think that if I was FAC, I wish I wouldn't have paid Mr. Norvell as much as he got paid, because they can't. I saw his buyout for if they want to get rid of him. It's some big money, so they could be using that on some athletes. I think they paid for the wrong person. They paid for the coach instead of the player.
It's such a wild organization. There's no organization right now, and because everybody's free to do what they want to do. Like I said, I was joking it was going to be North Dakota or South Dakota, and it winds up being BYU in basketball. I mean, somebody out of nowhere, when they put the money together, they can take over. And now you're gonna watch BYU in the next 4 years. They're going to be competitors for the NCAA tournament, and don't let them get to a Final Four. Holy shit! They were how were they at last year? Did they even make it to the Sweet 16?
I
They weren't even in the
remember.
tournament. I don't think they were even in the tournament. So, you know, just like that, a few bucks in the right place, boom. You know, you look at Wyoming or Oregon. What's that school? There's a small school in Oregon. They're somewhat kind of a Nike indoor school. They're going to show up out of nowhere, because once people turn their attention and start saying, "Hey, I got to get the farm. I got to get the farm school that feeds us, and I got to get them right." And we're already kind of seeing it in high school football here in Kansas City. There's 5 or 6 teams that are just emerging as being those schools to go to get a shot to go to Division I. and it's happening, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. So the best thing to do is to be prepared. Be prepared for your opportunity, for your kids' opportunity, and let's not let them fall flat on their face just because they get the money. That's where we're coming up with the private trust and setting things up so the money goes away and you're not worried about taxes, you're not worried about anything, and you just let the money sit there and accumulate, and then go finish your education, finish all the things you're going to do for your job training, and then be ready for the money at a certain point, but you have it. And that's the main thing we want to do here at Simple Plays, to make sure that we're here for the athlete and the athlete's family the whole way through, so that they become successful at whatever it is they choose to do.
Where can they reach Simple Plays, bro?
You can reach simpleplays.net and just drop us an email there, and we'll touch base with you from there.
Cool. Well, we're gonna wrap it up tonight, fellas, man. Lots to talk about here in the Locker Room Show. So we're gonna, I appreciate you guys sitting in tonight and hanging out. Check it out. If you want to check out any of our Locker Room shows, make sure you check us out on all of your platforms where you can pick up a podcast. That's Apple Music, Pandora. Like, we're everywhere. We're
Spotify.
YouTube, everywhere. Like, make sure you guys check us out. And we'll have a lot more to talk about coming up next week as NFL season continues to roll on. We get closer and closer to these playoffs. We got the college football playoffs, of course. Of course, college basketball season is about to heat up. It's almost that time. Lots to talk about. So make sure you guys check us out. Big Steve, give me some words to go out with, brother.
Hey, it's exciting times. I can't wait to see these playoffs. Stay tuned. See you next week.
Ben, what you got, brother?
I just got this, man. If BYU's got donors like that, every school's got donors like that right in there. So I'm NIL. It's going to continue to go crazy. I'm excited for the playoffs. Wake up for the playoffs.
All right, guys, we're out of here. It's your boy Big Jack. This is the Locker Room Show. We out of here.
Peace out, guys.